What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we have a Colorado whiskey. This is Ironton Distillery. This is Colorado Bourbon Whiskey. This says a lot right on the bottle here. We'll get into all of that and more, but first things first, let's pour this up, let's try it out, and let's get into our traditional sip. First things first, full disclosure, they did send me this bottle right here for free from Ironton Distillery, but that never skews my opinion on things. I always tell you guys my personal opinion, the truth, and how I feel about the particular bottle, but everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. It's young. So I've already told you one thing about this bottle, but the bottle tells us pretty much everything else we need to know. I told you this is young, and it does tell us right on the bottle. Aged in charred new American oak barrels for a minimum of 2 years. This is coming in at 86 proof, and it does tell us a little bit about the mash bill on here. Our award-winning spirits is distilled locally sourced ingredients and pure Rocky Mountain water to create maximum flavor and unique character. This bourbon is a traditional 4-grain American beauty made with red, white, and blue grains. Enjoy sweet, nutty flavors from the heirloom loose corn, spice from the rye, and fruitiness from the barley and red wheat, handcrafted at a mile high to be enjoyed at elevation for any adventure. Whatever that means is fine. Colorado's got their thing with the heights, but as for this one, let's talk about it. Price, taste, drinkability. Let's start with drinkability at 86 proof. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. For 86 proof, it does drink a little bit hot. I've drank a lot of craft whiskey in my day, and I feel like we've kind of got to distinguish between craft whiskey and the big names, right? Craft whiskey distilleries are some of the best to work with in terms of content creation. One, they're very responsive. Two, they're very eager to get their product out there because they think they have a great product and they want you to know about their product. Without the national recognition, this is how they can get their names out there. Ironton Distillery reached out to me. They sent this to me, and I tell them the same thing that I tell everybody else. Just because you send me a free bottle does not mean I'm going to give you a good review. They're perfectly fine with that. They're saying try it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. No skin off our back. And I love that about craft distilleries. They have a good product here. At 86 proof, we'll stick with drinkability for right now. At 86 proof, it drinks a little bit hot. I'm not going to lie to you about that, but I don't think it's anything crazy compared to other craft distillery stuff that I've tried. Normally, if you're drinking an 80 proof craft distillery product, it's 90 proof when it comes to the taste. If you're drinking 90 proof, it's 100 proof. If it's like a barrel strength or something like that, maybe you're getting a little bit closer to what it's supposed to be proofed at, but at 86 proof, I would probably blind this like 90. I would say I would under 95, 100%. Maybe 92 if I'm really reaching. But for me, at 86 proof, this isn't crazy off when it comes to the proof. The other factor when it comes to drinkability is normally when it's younger like this, you can usually get that ethanol kick a little bit more because it hasn't had time to age and really wear off some of that ethanol kick. That being said, at only 2 years aged on this, or quote unquote a minimum of 2 years age, this again should have more ethanol to it. So 86 proof, drinking like 90 proof, I'm not mad about that at all. We give it a 7.0 if it drinks right at its proof. I'm going to go slightly below that. 6.91. 6.91 seems like a fair spot when it comes to drinkability. This is crazy because I'm going to finish at least 2 of these glasses for this review. And lately I've been telling myself not to do that, but I like this glass a lot. So let's keep drinking it. Up next, we get a taste on this glass, and this is where I'm kind of back and forth on this one. So it's interesting because it has great flavors, right? The flavors are a lot more predominant than I ever thought they would be for 2 years old and 86 proof. This is one of those conundrums that I'm in, though, because the flavors aren't my personal favorite flavors. Normally, when you're talking about a 2-year-old whiskey that's only 86 proof, your biggest problem is it's kind of flat, right? There's not a lot of pop to it. There's not a lot of flavor. There's not a lot of density behind it. That's not the issue when it comes to this particular glass. The flavor's there. You're not searching for them. The biggest problem I have is there's a licorice note on this. And for my personal preference, I do not like getting that licorice note. Now, a lot of people will get that licorice note, especially on some smaller craft distillery stuff, and they don't mind it, right? If you like that licorice note and you're not going to be turned off by that, then you're going to like this glass a lot more than I am. But I will say, the other flavors before I get to licorice, because that's kind of on the end of this, there's a zestiness on this, there's an orange on this. They say lavender on there, and if I didn't read the word lavender before I tasted this, I would have never put lavender in here. But when they say the word lavender, you definitely get that on the nose. You get like a floral note on the nose, you get some sweetness, you get get a little bit of spiciness behind this, and then there is a nuttiness. They mention it right on the bottle. There's a nuttiness to this, and I love that. That Heaven Hill nuttiness, that Booker's nuttiness, whichever one it happens to be, because they are very different. When you get a nuttiness on the glass, I like that personally. So that mixed with a little bit of cherry, a little bit of orange. Again, I was just not expecting the pop on the flavor on this. And other than that licorice note, which whether they're going for that or it's just the age behind it, only being 2 years giving them that, it still seems to work pretty well. I mean, I gotta be honest with you, when I got this bottle, I see 2 years old, I see 86 proof, I get a little discouraged, right? I get a little bit nervous. I see Craft Distillery, they're reaching out, they want to send me a bottle. I feel bad being like, listen, I'm not going to like it, but I always give it a chance, right? I never want to go out there and straight up tell you I'm not going to like a whiskey. This is one of those surprising instances that, and I sound surprised, and I quite literally I am. I am surprised at how good this is for what it is. I'm excited about what they can do in the future with this as well. So we're talking about a 2-year-old 86 proof whiskey. If they get some 5-6-year-old stuff out there, guys, they have a great base for what's going on here. Obviously, whoever's in charge of this, by the way, this is women owned. I don't like saying that because I don't really feel like that's like an accomplishment anymore. I get it, but like women are so involved in the industry now that like that's not like, oh, it's women owned. Like, how are women doing this? Women have been doing this for a very long time. I just want to mention it because they are women owned, and I feel like they're proud of that fact, which they should be. But at the same time, there's enough women in this industry, and obviously these are two women that know exactly what they're doing when it comes to this. They're either blending this perfectly, they're getting the actual distillation down process, the process down perfectly, or they're doing a combination of both, because again, I'm just shocked at what they can do with some 2-year-old whiskey on this. This is phenomenal whiskey for 2-year-old whiskey. So they tell us about the 4 grains that they're using right on the side here. Again, it says that it's blue heirloom corn. They have rye in this, they have red wheat, and then they also have barley in this. So again, 4 grains is something, it's always been interesting to me what you can do with 4 grains over 3. I think it does give it a unique flavor. I think it also opens it up to some more flavors, which is why this is so complex rather than being something simple. So when it comes to taste on this, I mean, I'm not going to get like, it's 7.0 if it's an average tasting whiskey. I'm not going to get crazy here, but I think for what I'm getting and what I was expecting, it's got to be above a 7. So I might push the 8s, but I don't think it's quite in the 8s. Again, that licorice note is kind of holding it back for me. But if you don't mind that licorice note, you might be in the 8s for this. I'm going to go like 7.93 when it comes to taste on this. Phenomenal for a 2-year-old 86 proof. And last but not least, we got to talk about price on this. And this bottle comes in at $65. And this is just another reason I feel like we've got to distinguish between Craft Distillery and the big names. The big names, they got money behind them, right? They've got nothing but time to sit and wait for their whiskey to come of age. 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 years. They've got all of the time and all of the money. A Craft Distillery, I understand if you're newer and you're opening up and maybe you made gin and vodka that doesn't have to sit in a barrel for 3, 4 years before you can sell it, that when you start to make a whiskey, you've got to put some of the younger stuff out first while you wait for other stuff to mature. I hope this company has some other stuff maturing in the background, because again, when it comes to 5, 6, 7-year-old whiskey coming out of this distillery, I think it's going to be phenomenal, and I hope I'm on the forefront of finding that. So Ironton, if you have that and you see this video by any means necessary, let me know if you do have some older stuff sitting around. I would love to try that, even if it's straight from the barrel. If I gotta come visit you myself and thieve it, I would love to try it, because I think you've got something special here. That being said, $65, again, like I'm back and forth. Yeah, it's a bad price for a 2-year-old whiskey. We're talking $10 a year is like the average standard. So it should be a $20 bottle of whiskey, but at the end of the day, 4 grains is a little bit more expensive. It's only 86 proof, so I do think it's a little bit expensive, but again, I understand from the Craft Distillery side of things. Here's what I will say. I always say if it's an average tasting bourbon at average drinkability, it should be an average price, and they've done that for me. They've given me drinkability slightly below average, they've given me taste slightly above average, and they're giving me the price right there at average. We say $70 to a $90 bottle of whiskey, and this is $65. So I'm gonna go slightly above a 7 on this. Again, I think, keep in mind, everything that I'm telling you is based off of what we're doing here with the Craft Distillery at 2 years old and 86 proof. I think they've hit this particular release above and beyond what I was expecting, and I can only do anything but praise them for that. So when it comes to $65, we're going to give it right around a 7. I'm going to go like 7.12 when it comes to price on this. I can't be too mad from a Craft Distillery. But listen, while I add these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week because they named their stills and they put it through more than one. So let's talk about that real quick. So first things first, you have Big Carl. This is a 300-gallon beer stripping still. This gets rid of all that yeast beer flavor. Again, they normally would have heads and hearts on this and get rid of some of this, but after the first distill, they keep all of the White Dog and send it to our next distill, which is called Margot. Now, Margot's really where they hone in on things. That's where they start to do their cuts. Now, I'm not sure with the whiskey if they send it to the third distilling process, which is, I believe, Tamila. Maybe it's Tamila. I'm not quite sure. But they do this for their gin because that's where they have the botanicals in a basket and it'll start to pick up the flavors for the gin. But they could take that basket out, I suppose, and do a third distilling process on the whiskey. I just don't know if they do that or not. So what this tells me is this company is not taking any shortcuts when it comes to the distilling process, and it reflects in the product right here because this is a phenomenal glass of whiskey for 2 years old. That's the last time I'm going to say it, but let's get back to our score on this real quick. I've been sitting here for the past 2 to 3 minutes wondering if I've given this bottle too much credit. This bottle comes in at a 7.32. It's in our top 10 of 2024 right now. And given the bottles that it's beaten, I've got to wonder, am I off on this? And I don't think that I am. I think this is right where it deserves to be. This bottle had no expectations when I figured out that it was a 2-year-old 86 proof. I know I wasn't going to say that again, and I did. But I had no expectations, and it blew my expectations out of the water. So I think it deserves to be in my top 10. It deserves to be above average. And if you don't know about Ironton Distillery and now you do and you get an opportunity to try this, let me know in the comment section below what you think about it, or if you've already tried it, maybe you're from Colorado and you've been hyping this up for years and finally somebody on the East Coast found out about it. Let me know about that as well because Ironton Distillery is definitely on my radar moving forward. But listen, big shout out to, I believe I'm pronouncing this correctly, Kaylin. It's either Kaylin or Callan. I'm not quite sure. I hate pronouncing names that I don't know how to pronounce. But Kaylin and Laura over at Ironton Distillery, I appreciate you guys sending me this bottle. This is absolutely phenomenal. Once you get some 4, 5, 6, maybe 7-year-old whiskey, I would love to try that as well. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button if you like this type of content. Check us out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Please check out our Patreon page and our Discord. Both those links in the description below. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. Stay healthy, stay happy, and stay checking out smaller craft distilleries. They might just surprise you. Cheers, y'all.